friends, and welcome to lesson 2 for this week. This week we are focusing on central idea, author's purpose, right? And we're also focusing on author's message. And we are using the mentor text, The Snake That's Eating Florida. Now, yesterday we did a ton of thinking in our pre-reading and our reading as to what the author was trying to tell us with this text, The Snake That's Eating Florida. When we were doing our pre-reading, we're like, what? What does that mean? But we came to understand that the python was brought here to the United States as a pet, and people didn't realize how big they would get or how expensive they would be to keep or how gross it is to kind of feed your pet live bunnies. Or they were accidentally set free in a hurricane in 1992. Whatever the reason was, the result is that this python that does not belong in the Everglades food chain came to be in the Everglades. And because they have no natural predators, they're just eating everything, right? We also learned that that female pythons can lay up to 100 eggs at a time. So they go into this environment where they're not a danger because nothing's going to really eat them on purpose because they don't belong there. They don't have natural predators. They don't fit into the food chain, but they come in, have a bunch of babies, and eat everything and throw the whole food web in the environment out of order. And that's why they call this an invasive species. It's not their fault, but they still don't belong there, okay? So that's a big summary of what we read yesterday. Now we need to be thinking, what is the text mostly teaching about? Okay, so we're going to turn that question into a claim statement. We could turn this into a whole CER if we wanted to, what the text is mostly teaching about. But today, we're just going to use the graphic organizer to come up with 3 claim statements. A claim statement for central idea, a claim statement for author's message, and a claim statement for author's purpose, because they all kind of build on top of each other. And we have to use one to infer the next, okay? So, central idea, claim statement. You can use this claim statement in your own performance task, okay? This starter that I'm about to use. What is the text mostly about? The text, the snake that's eating Florida, is mostly about. Now pause for a minute and think, what is it mostly about? You can click pause on the video if you kind of want to work ahead. I'm going to say that this text is mostly about how an invasive species came to live in the Florida Everglades and how it is hurting the food chain, let's say food web, the food web and environment. Okay? Now, you can use this sentence starter here. I'll underline this. Of course, you're going to use your own text title here for the performance task tomorrow, but for our work here today, you can just do this right here. The text is mostly about, and then we go on. That's a whole claim statement right there. We can move on and have evidence to support our thinking, but we're not focusing on that for this week. We're just writing a claim statement in a graphic organizer. Okay? Now that we have a good understanding of what the text is mostly teaching about, how this invasive species came to live in Florida and how it's hurting the environment, now we can start working on the author's message. What is the bigger idea that the author wants you to learn from this? Okay? Now, think for a moment. How did this snake come to be in Florida? The author talked about it, right? People set them free, which is not a responsible thing to do if you're a pet owner, or they were accidentally set free in a hurricane that caused damage to a lot of buildings. So, what is the bigger idea in this text that the author wants you to learn? Okay, I'm going to use this question and turn it into my answer. The bigger idea that the author wants me to learn in this text is Pause and think. You can always press pause on the video if you want. The bigger idea that the author wants me to learn in this text is, while it is not the python's fault, because it's really not, they're just doing what snakes do, the bigger idea that the author wants me to learn in this text is that while it's not the python's fault, they are causing real harm on an environment that has no natural predators to help keep their population under control. Okay? So that's the author's message, and there can be more than one, but I'm focusing on the biggest one here. Okay? That's my claim statement. And in your performance task, you can borrow this sentence starter. Okay? Do you see how I'm taking the question and turning it into my answer? We practice that all the time in our discussions. You are so good at it. You listen to the questions that I ask while we're reading, and you turn my question into your answer. And that's all we're doing here. Okay? Now, let's dig into the deeper, the higher thing here, the author's purpose. Why did the author write this text? Every author has a purpose in why they write something. You, as an author, when we write texts, think back to our opinion writing, you were trying to pull the reader to your side of the argument. You wrote me Dear Miss Thompson letters to convince me of something. Doesn't the way that you wrote those opinion pieces remind you of how the author wrote this piece here? So think for a moment. Why did the author write this message? Why did they write this text? Let's think. Okay. While you're thinking, I'm going to get started by writing the sentence starter. The author wrote this text to, and think about that. Doesn't it feel like a persuasive text? The author was trying to persuade you, right, of something, or to inform us of something. I can hear the argument both ways. It can be to inform us of this problem that I had no idea existed, that it's a real problem, right, to that pythons are being set free in the Everglades by pet owners who didn't realize how much work they would be. Now, let's go down to the last little piece of this text here from yesterday. The author included this little box here as a writing extension. Pretend that your friend in Florida has a Burmese python. He can't care for it anymore and wants to let it go in the wild. Write him a letter explaining what the effects could be. Use details from the story to help you. Okay? I think that that gives me a really big clue as to why the author wrote this text. The author wrote this text to convince me that setting an animal free, not just a python, but any animal that doesn't belong in that environment, that setting an animal that doesn't belong free can have harmful effects. The author wrote this text to convince me that setting an animal that doesn't belong in that environment free can have harmful effects. Now, the author wants us to think beyond. Yes, they are telling us about this problem, these pythons in Florida that is causing this problem, but I bet that if people are setting their pet pythons free, they might be setting other pets free that don't belong in that environment. Maybe they're setting their fish free in Texas lakes that are then becoming an invasive species because they don't belong in that food web. Think about it. Okay? And that's the author's purpose in this text. Now, you are going to use these two lessons to help you fill out the graphic organizer on your own for the performance task. You're going to access a text called Amazing Penguins, and you are going to be doing all the thinking that we modeled here in lessons 1 and lessons 2. Okay, pre-read the text, read and think at the same time. What do you already know and what is new to you? And then take your thinking to the next level once you're done. Think about the central idea, the author's message, and the author's purpose, okay? And use these 3 guiding questions to help you come up with 3 complete sentences for each. If we wanted to dig deeper with this, if we had more time together before the end of the year, I may take each of these things and turn them into a CER. I could turn this and have this be my claim statement for my CER, my claim statement for central idea, my claim statement for author's message, and my claim statement for author's purpose. That all works together. This graphic organizer is here to help you create that claim statement, and that's all I'm looking for today. I want to see, for your performance task, your claim statements in each central idea, author's message, and author's purpose on the text I have chosen for you. I know you're going to be great. If you need any help at all, please know that I'm here for you. We can do this together, okay? So before we go, I just want to show you how to access this text, okay? If you want the story read aloud to you, you're just going to open the text here, and the exact same thing is going to happen. You'll click Log In, I am a student, and click on SES 301. That's the password, okay? So the text is loading. And once you get logged in, you'll be able to read the story here. Okay, and there's some additional stories to help you. The audio is down here at the bottom if you need that, and you can listen to the audio while you follow along in the text. All right? So I really love this text. I think you're going to love it too. If you need any help, like I said, just give me a shout. I'm here to help you. You are doing amazing work, my friends. I cannot wait to see what you accomplish this week. Goodbye.